Hello and welcome to another edition of Conspirator Rock's Pull List. This is my pull list for the week of November 8th, 2017. Let's get right into it. First up, we have Action Comics number 991. This is the final part of the Oz Effect story arc with a lenticular cover there. It looks pretty cool. I'm curious to see how Oz Effect ends. It's been an okay story arc, but I'm really curious to see where it takes us. Next up, we have Batman Lost: The Dark Knight metal tie-in. I've heard the internet's been ablaze about how good this is, so I'm super excited to read it. It is on the bottom of my reading pile, though, because I save all the good stuff for last. If you have not been reading metal, I do recommend it highly. It is amazing. Most likely you'll have to track down second prints of some of these things. I know a lot of the metal tie-in one-shots have sold out, initial printings. But the second prints are on their way, so check your local shop or see if your shop can order it for you. Next up, we have Detective Comics number 968. This continues A Lonely Place of Living. This story is a futuristic Tim Drake comes back to basically not make his future so sucky. It spawns out of present-day Tim Drake's captivity with Oz or Superman's dad. Spoiler, if he is his dad, who knows. But been enjoying it. Detective's been an amazing book to read every few weeks, so I highly recommend that one as well. Next up is a book that Ryan forgot to order, but ordered and got some more, and that's Disney Frozen's Annual 2017. This is, of course, for my lovely little daughter. Hopefully we will read at some point. And the next one is for my daughter as well, and that's Disney Princess number 14. She likes her some Disney princesses, so yeah. Next up, we have The Flash number 34, Black Hole Rising, Part 1. Looks like Barry's love interest from the beginning of this Flash series is back from the dead, but who knows what that's going to entail. So I'm curious to see how that unravels. The Flash has been a really good book overall after Rebirth. I enjoyed it before, but it's been really good. So if you like Flash or you're into the TV show, I do recommend picking up the current Flash run. It is amazing. Next up, we have Gotham City Garage number 3. This collects digital chapters or issues or whatever they want to call them. 5 and 6 of the series. This one features Harley Quinn, and it has the standard Harley Quinn, or it has a panel in there that has the Harley Quinn motorcycle statue pose. So I thought that was pretty cool. Overall, the Gotham City Garage stuff's interesting. I'm curious to see where it goes and how it pans out, but overall I've liked it. I felt that there was a little choppiness to this issue, so I don't know if that's just due to writing or what, but I'm still going with it. Next up, we have another metal tie-in, and that's for Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, number 32. This is part 3 of Bats Out of Hell. This has just been an amazing tie-in. Last week's issue was fantastic. Ethan Van Sciver's artwork's amazing. I don't know what else to say about it, but that is awesome. If you're not reading metal, I have no idea why. Next up, we have Harbinger Renegade number 0. This is kind of like a prequel to what's going on in Harbinger Renegade. Harbinger Renegade's okay. The first story arc was kind of mediocre. The second one is kind of building up to kind of what they've advertised in this issue, which is Harbinger Wars 2 or HW2. So I'm curious to see where Valiant is taking this, but who knows. Next up, we have Harley Quinn number 31, Vote Harley. This is going to be one of the last issues, if not the last issue, for Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti, it's sad again to see them go, but I'm ready for a new voice on Harley, so we'll see how that translates going forward. But I know Amanda and Jimmy willingly stopped writing, so they kind of told their story and now they're done. So I really like it when creators get to do that, instead of being forced off or yanked off or whatever. Amanda Conner and Justin Palmiotti were able to finish this up. If you did not get a chance, I do recommend pick up the Jetsons. It's just fantastic. Really, really well done by Palmiotti, and I think Connor's doing it too. But yeah, if you have not checked out the Jetsons, please do. It is awesome. Next up, we have Justice League of America number 18. Prometheus is back and wreaking havoc on the Justice League of America. I already read the issue. It was okay. We'll see where it goes from there. Next up is Mr. Miracle number 4 of 12. I always forget. Yeah, 12. This is the variant cover for the issue. We were shorted most of our copies, if not all, or the vast majority of our regular cover. So hopefully we will get those in, and I can pick up my regular cover. But that's the variant for Mr. Miracle number 4. If you're not reading it, you need to be reading it. Tom King and Mitch Gerardis are doing an amazing job on Mr. Miracle, and it's just a fantastic read. So yeah, if you don't know who Mr. Miracle is, grab a copy of the second print of that first issue and check it out. It's good stuff. Next up, we have Ragman number 2 of 6. The first issue is interesting, so I decided to keep going with it. I'm curious to see this take on Ragman that they have. But yeah, it was good. So next up, we have Red Hood and the Outlaws number 16. Story arcs #Squad Goals. The last issue, Artemis, Red Hood, and Bizarro got their butts whooped by Batwoman's team, and they got sent to Belle Reve, and you know who's in Belle Reve, so yeah. Basically, they're recruited to go do something, but yeah, I enjoyed it. Next up, we have Royal City number 7. This is Jeff Lemire's book, Image book. Really, really solid book. I enjoy reading this. I can't wait to dive into issue 7. Next up, we have Scooby Apocalypse number 19. Really good issue, very sad issue, but I've really enjoyed the Scooby Apocalypse take on Scooby-Doo. It's really it's a dystopian kind of thing, but it really feels like a really solid adventure, and it's been going good for 19 issues, so yeah, can't complain. Next up, we have Suicide Squad number 29, The Secret History of Task Force X. Suicide Squad's in space, meeting up with the original Task Force X, and they're supposed to go kick butt. So that's pretty much what that is. Who's writing? Williams is still writing this, so I'm still enjoying it. We'll see how much I enjoyed it once Superior starts writing. Who knows? Next up, we have Titans number 17. This is the variant cover for the issue. I picked this one over the regular one, but been enjoying it. Titans is okay. It's one of the books that's on my on the fence for me for keeping on my pull list or dropping down to my read list. It's not bad, but it's not something that I kind of really want to read every week or every month. So yeah, we'll see how long it lasts. And then finally on my pull list, we have Wonder Woman number 34, Children of the Gods. This story arc's been really interesting to read, especially after coming after Rucka's run. But I've enjoyed it so far, and it looks to be, continue to be interesting. So Wonder Woman is fantastic as far as I'm concerned. So, all right, we have a couple of variants this week. First variant is Batgirl and the Birds of Prey number 16. I got it because Harley's on the cover, and I realized after I was checking Comixology today that Harley's also on the main cover, so I need to snag that too because I'm a sucker. Next up, we have Flash 34, which has its Justice League variant. That one was pretty dope, so I decided to pick that one up. Of course, Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps had a metal tie-in variant, so I snagged that one up. Frank Cho still hitting hard with the Harley variants, and this is Harley 31s. Let's see. Next up, we have Gillian March, a variant for Red Hood and the Outlaws, number 16. I love Gillian March's art. Saw this and was like, yep, got to pick that one up. The only qualm I have about it is that her face is white and the rest of her body is not, but yeah, what can you do? Next up is the variant for Suicide Squad number 29. Will Porcheo still doing the variant on that, and I can stomach them. Next up is the variant for Supergirl 15, and that's the Art Germ variant. Supergirl numbers probably jumped up significantly because of Art Germ's variants, but because DC does an amazing thing called open order on variants, your store should be able to get them for you very, very easily. So, yeah. And finally, we have the Wonder Woman 34 variant for issue 700. Wonder Woman is celebrating 700 issues as of this issue, which is a milestone. It's really, really solid that Wonder Woman has gotten that high in the legacy numbering. So, yeah. So that's pretty much it for my pull list. I did snag a special order, which was the Art of Harley Quinn, a giant-sized coffee book, art book here. Back's pretty dope too. So once I actually get a coffee table, hopefully I'll be able to put it out. But for now, I gotta find some place to put it because it won't fit on a bookshelf. Yeah. So that's again it for stuff I brought home. So let's move on to the read list. My read list, for those of you who don't know, is basically titles that I read to stay current and caught up, but they don't actually purchase for my collection. So first up, we have a new #1 from Image, and that's Coyotes. I actually got a chance to read Coyotes, and it's not for me, but it's could be for somebody who's interested in kind of a kid assassin. In I don't know if it's in Mexico or it might be in Mexico. Yeah, it has potential, but for me, the writing just wasn't there. But yeah, check it out if you curious about a #1 this week. Next up, we have Daredevil number 595, and of course we have the lenticular cover, which looks much better on camera than it does in real life. I haven't been reading Daredevil, but I picked up this issue and read it, and it was not bad. I think Charles Soule's probably found his footing with Daredevil. It really seems like he has. So I may keep checking out Daredevil as we go. Yeah. Next up, we have Moon Knight number 188. Again, variant, or the lenticular variant there. Not much of a difference between the covers there, so yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I read it. It was really deep and interesting, and coming off of Jeff Lemire's run of Moon Knight, it felt really kind of in the same vein. I'll check out issues if I can going forward. So we'll see how it is. Next up is Port of Earth #1. This is a new one from Image. Interesting concept in that aliens or basically first contact with aliens wasn't like world domination or them coming to destroy us or peace. It was them brokering a business deal with us to use water, because water apparently is a energy source for space travel. So we end up having a port, and then there's the chaos that ensues from the clash of aliens and humans and all that stuff. I found it a very interesting read. I'll be curious to read issue 2. It may jump over to my buy list, but I'm not too sure. I'll have to ruminate on it a little bit more, but for the most part, I did enjoy Port of Earth. Next up, we have She-Hulk number 159, and of course, it's a lenticular cover there for the wonderful legacy stuff. What can I say about? I try not to hold them up because it gives me a headache. I wasn't too impressed with the She-Hulk. I read a little bit before; it was okay. I don't know really if I like this path they have her going down with kind of things. It started out really strong, but I don't think it's carried over very well. I probably won't continue with it, but who knows. Next up, we have Star Wars number 38. We no longer have Jason Aaron on, but we have Kieran Gillen on, I should say. I enjoyed the issue. It was good. We actually go back to Jeddah, the planet from Rogue One that was partially destroyed when they tested out the Death Star on it. It's really interesting to see what they're going with, and they're touching on kyber crystals and all of that wonderful stuff. So I've really enjoyed the Star Wars main book. If you're a Star Wars fan, I do highly recommend picking it up because it does have wonderful connections to not only the movies but also the other comics and novels that that Disney's been putting out with that stuff. So. And next up, we have the Wildstorm Michael Cray in number 2 of 12. This book I'm not sure if I like. I think it's set in a different universe because he's going up against Oliver Queen in that book. Spoiler, Oliver Queen does not make it. So I'm curious to see where this title goes. The Wildstorm book's been okay, so we'll see. That's it for my read list this week. I did pick up something from last week that I didn't get a chance to grab a copy of until this week, and that's Astonishing X-Men #5. Charles Soule's been doing a good job on this, and I like that we're 5 issues and we're still dealing with the same story that we started out with at the beginning. So it's a nice, at least 6-issue story arc, which is nice because a lot of times these books tend to have like the 4 or 5-part or even 3-part opening stories, and they just don't get their feet grounded and running. They kind of stagnate, and it's really, really sad. So we'll see, but I've been enjoying it so far. So that's it for this week. There was some slightly big news this week, which me and my fellow conspirators on the Comic Conspiracy talked about it a little bit more at length on when we recorded last night, episode I think 331. You can find a link in the description below. But that big news was that Brian Michael Bendis has signed a multi-year, multifaceted exclusive contract with DC Comics. Yeah, that's huge news. Brian Michael Bendis has been a staple and probably the what's the word I'm looking for? The creative just lead for Marvel for so long. He's been there 17 years. He did the Ultimate stuff. He worked on Daredevil. He also did a bunch of event books, as well as writing Alias and Jessica Jones. And he's written Avengers and all that stuff. And there's a lot of stuff he's done. Now, personally, his work at Marvel, I have not yet read his Daredevil stuff. But I want to. It's on my list of stuff to read. And I haven't read Alias either, but I've been reading the current Jessica Jones, and I've been really enjoying it. But for the most part, when I was reading Bendis, I was reading Ultimate Spider-Man, which was good, and then it kind of fell off. And then I kind of picked up New Avengers, and it was okay, but then again it fell off. And it really felt like we were living in Bendis' Marvel world for a long time. And for me, Bendis he's not a bad writer, but his team books just don't resonate with me, mainly because he does very well doing character, but the issue that I have is that when you have a guy that's really good at character, when he's on solo titles like Alias and Daredevil and Jessica Jones now, and doing Invincible Iron Man with Riri Williams and doing Infamous Iron Man with Dr. Doom, they're really solid titles because he's allowed to focus on just one or a handful of characters. When he's on a team book, that character development is not as there as much, and a lot of the characters on the team end up sounding the same. Or you could take the dialogue that's in his book and transfer it from one character to another, or flip it, and it still fits. So it's kind of like it doesn't really matter who's saying. So for me, his work on team books has not been what I've really enjoyed. It's this stuff on the more grounded, more single character books that he's been on. But it's huge news him moving over to DC after being at Marvel for so long. We touch on exactly why, and there's a Bleeding Cool article you can go find and check out that talks a little bit about kind of the rumors around his separation from Marvel. And, it really seems to stem from this idea that something's going on at Marvel and people aren't happy there. Marvel has lost a lot of great talent to DC, or even to the independent side of things. They've lost Tom King, they've lost Jeff Lemire, they've lost Hickman, they've lost Remender, they've lost now Brian Michael Bendis. So, a lot of talent has left Marvel and gone on to either DC or doing their own independent stuff, or both. Which is also funny because this news dropped yesterday on Tuesday the 7th. Well, on today the 11th, Bleeding Cool also ran an article about there is a contract, or what's the word I'm looking for? DC is basically trying to get Hickman to write for them. So there's a contract out, and he has to, whether or not he wants to agree to it or whatever. But if Hickman's going over to DC as well, that's huge. Currently, right now, DC is the powerhouse for holding or for having a plethora of talent there. They have Johns, who's the creative guy who comes in and does some stuff occasionally. But you also have Tom King. You have Jeff Lemire is coming back to DC. You have Vendetti, who's been doing an amazing job. Tomasi, who's been doing an amazing job. We're going to have Bendis, possibly Hickman, just a ton. Scott Snyder also as well. Don't forget, I can't forget that guy. But tons and tons of talent at DC, and DC seems to have this culture of wanting to nourish that and give creators space to breathe and create these stories and just go and create great content that people are going to want to read and pick up. Whereas as Marvel, it seems like they have Jason Aaron still. They have Dan Slott. Who else do they have? There was another person they had. I can't remember his name. But these talents don't seem like they seem to be jostled around and all that stuff. And I don't know whether or not they're content there. I know Jason Aaron is no longer on Star Wars. He's now focusing on the Avengers stuff he's going to be doing and his Thor stuff. And Slott is just in his station as the guy that's writing Amazing Spider-Man and has been writing Amazing Spider-Man for going on a decade now. So we'll see. It's really, really large news that Bendis left Marvel because Bendis was the Marvel guy. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the table over at DC, but I'm also hesitant because of kind of his track record at Marvel over the past handful of years, especially with team books. But I'm really excited to see what we're going to be getting from Bendis in the future over at DC, and potentially even Hickman. So, yeah, good times. We're going to be seeing some interesting stuff in the DC pipeline coming soon. So that's it for this week. I know I rambled on a little bit about some news topics, but I don't get a chance to do that very often except on the podcast, which, again, you can listen to the Comics Conspiracy Podcast at www.geekbox.net, and you can help support us through Patreon at www.patreon.com/comicsconspiracy. For as little as $1 a month, you help us with hosting fees, sometimes getting food, movie tickets, product, so we can actually enjoy the stuff, pick up the stuff that we enjoy. So to all of our Patreon backers, we thank you so much for that. If you want to help me out specifically, you can also click on links to my eBay store. I might not have stuff up all the time, but check back. I kind of cycle through the same listings, but I try and get new stuff that I'm purging out up there. Anything you buy from there directly helps me, so I do appreciate it. And any of the other links that you find in here that are going to something you can buy, that helps me out as well. So I appreciate everybody that does that. Thank you so much for that. I got to get this thing up, and it's getting running long, so it's going to take forever, but that's okay. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is @BrockSager. Please also like, share, and subscribe to the channel. You can leave your comments down in the comment section below here. I'd like to see what you guys are picking up. I try to respond as much as I can, but being a busy single father with 3 jobs is a little difficult. So, but I try and at least get you guys content every single week on time. So, yep. So, that's it for this week. So, I guess I'll see you next week.